public for the very first time. That happened out in the yard sitting on the tower of this building. The Declaration of Independence was read by John Nixon. He was Philadelphia's county sheriff. He was also a colonel in the Pennsylvania militia. He had 8 of his militiamen stationed in the audience. So when he was finished reading the Declaration of Independence, those 8 militiamen could come into this courtroom and climb up behind the judge's bench. That painting is the coat of arms of Pennsylvania. That was painted in 1785 specifically to hang in that space. It represented the power and authority of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in this building. Of course, in 1776, the British coat of arms was hanging up there, the symbol of King George III's royal authority here. Those 8 men pried the British coat of arms off the wall. For a few hours, dragged them through the streets of Philadelphia, so all the citizens would get a very good chance to properly abuse them. And after a few hours of all that, they set them on fire. And of course, they did all this to make a very simple but a very important point. King George III and his government no longer held any more power or authority here. Certainly desecrating and burning the British coat of arms was an act of treason. It was minor compared to all the acts of treason that occurred in the room just behind you. Before we go over there, I'd like to talk a little bit about this courtroom. It represents a very unique aspect of the American Revolution. You know, we completely rejected the British government. We don't have a monarch, we don't have a parliament, we do not have a government church. However, the law as it was practiced in this courtroom that day after the revolution ended was really no different from the day before it began. In fact, it's still basically the same system of law that's practiced in the United States of America today. Of course, the one thing that has changed dramatically is what I'm standing in. This is called the prisoner's dock. In the 18th century, when they said stand trial, they meant that literally. You stood throughout your trial. And of course, it's difficult to look innocent while you're standing up here, even on a cage. Nonetheless, you were innocent until you were proven to be guilty. You had the right to a trial by jury. That jury consisted of 12 of your neighbors, just like today. By the early 18 teens, we start getting rid of the prisoner's dock, and instead of having a witness and prosecution at the table, the defendant sits with his lawyer. But apart from that, it's still basically the same system. So, does anyone have any questions about anything so far? Anything I've said? Anything else? The gold person up there is Justice. She is blindfolded because Justice is blind. She carries the scales because Justice is balanced. She carries a sword because punishment is swift. It's another one of those things we inherited from the British. You'll find some symbol of justice in every British courtroom as well as every American courtroom. Anyone else? Yeah. Well, I guess they'd probably make you stand up, unless you couldn't. Yes.
Didn't the British retaliate after they took down the coat of arms? Like the soldiers did in America?
No, because at the time that's being done in 1776, the British soldiers are all up in Massachusetts. From the beginning, the British really don't have enough troops. I mean, why is George Washington fighting Germans over in New Jersey in 1777? Because the British don't have enough redcoats. They literally have to buy German peasants, you know, that are sold to them by the lords of Hesse-Kassel and also Brunswick. We call them the Hessians, but they came from all over the German states. And it's really what causes the end of the war. In 1781, when the British are defeated at Yorktown, there's no more redcoats, there's no more Germans to rent. They try to rent Russians, and Catherine the Great laughs at them. At that point, the war is over because they don't have any troops left. Okay, at this point, if you turn around and go across the hall, we'll go into the assembly room where the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution were both signed.